Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us and coming and being a part of our online class that we have here at the church. So appreciative of you taking time out of your week to do this, and I hope you enjoy this content. Um, it's been just a wonderful time here at the church with what's been happening in our Sunday morning services, and even with our Wednesday nights. Tonight is I'm filming this on Wednesday night, and the church is a buzz of activity. I mean, there is a wonderful. Every group is full, and every room is just up to the brim, and it is exciting to just have people come and they're excited to be with each other and excited to be with the Lord. And so it's just a wonderful opportunity of what's going on in this church. And so if you're not here in person, you're missing out. If you're able to be here, you got to come and check it out. But I'll mention more of that in the closing. So once again, thank you for coming out of your busy week and listening to this study that we do. This is the Battle Buddy series on our midweek service with Pastor. This is our study on the armor bearer. And last week going through our study of the armor bearer. Last week I kind of talked a little bit about when the armor bearer fails. I try to get a little funny with my titles, or a little bit funny or nuanced with my words. I want to paint a picture so that you guys can kind of see where I'm going at with this. And so last week I kind of introduced this idea of when the armor bearer fails, and really because just the nature of the armor bearer relationship, there is it is one such that it's just not one person. It's a relationship. So you have the leader and the armor bearer, and that involves, and so there's two forms that failure can occur. And so last week we anchored more so on the armor bearer side, on when an armor bearer fails, and we looked at the prophet Elisha and his armor bearer Gehazi, and how Gehazi fell into the poison of selfishness, and how he saw a situation where his heart desired something, and so he lied about it, and it brought ruin to him. Did not hurt his master at all, but it did bring ruin to him, and that was the failure of the armor bearer in that regards. And so again, the benefit of having an online format is that if you missed last week's, or maybe there's a lot of information that you didn't get to really just dive into, the beauty of that is you can watch it again, and you can review last week's episode as we discussed Gehazi and the failure in the armor bearer. And so it is my hope that you catch that. Today, I want to turn our attention to the second portion of how failure can come into the armor bearer relationship. Okay, where does the second failure occur, and what does that mean? And so I want to look at that. So we're going to go back, Gehazi and the prophet Elisha, but we're going to actually go all the way back to. It actually starts with David's son Solomon. So we're going to start with Solomon. And basically, Solomon has passed away, okay? So I said it starts with Solomon, but it starts with Solomon's death. Like, how does it start there? Bear with me, and as I explain it, you'll see what I mean. But King Solomon has passed away. Now, King Solomon was a extremely wise king. He was a very talented king. When he ascended to the throne, he spent time in prayer. He sought the Lord. He built the temple, and so he really tried his best initially to honor the Lord. And so the Lord blessed him with a request. He says, "Ask for anything you want, and it'll be done for you." And instead of asking for riches, instead of asking for more power, Solomon asks for the wisdom to lead the people. And so that was his desire, was just have wisdom to really lead well. And so the Lord blessed him with that, and he did. And so Solomon was a very talented, very wise, very resourceful king because of how God has blessed him. And even though Solomon was a very wise king, he also saw just the wisdom that having counsel afforded him, the having a good counsel. And so he had surrounded himself with elders. Okay, he surrounded himself with individuals who can speak wisdom and insight to his situations. And so he had in essence, he had a team of armor bearers, elders who served him, and he established this wonderful team. And so he did, and it helped them to serve. They served him well. But now, remember what I said earlier, Solomon's passed away. He's in the grave. Solomon is no more. And so what happens is his son, Solomon's son, Rehoboam is now king, and it is not long. I mean, the Bible doesn't give you a time frame. It just says "and next." And so in my perception, I believe it was not long at all where Rehoboam now has to test his leadership mettle. He has to test his leadership type, and what kind of a king and what kind of a man is Rehoboam going to be. So now his position is being tested. And so all of this that we're talking about today, if you have your Bibles, I'll read here shortly, but it's in 1 Kings chapter 12. And so if you are listening and you want to follow along, or maybe even get ahead of where I'm currently speaking, 1 Kings 12 is where we're sitting at. And so Rehoboam gets this test, and there's a request that's brought to him, and he initially makes the right steps. And that's what I love about it, is initially he does the right thing. He takes those right steps and begins to act accordingly. Okay? And so as leaders, because we're going to be looking at, when it comes to the armor-bearer relationship, we're looking at the failure and the leader side of things. As leaders, wherever we are leading, whether it's at home or in the workplace, wherever we have influence, there's always going to be moments and encounters that require us to respond. You know, that's an important thing. Do we have, there's going to be these moments that are going to arise where we are required to respond to a situation. You know, drama in the house, complaints in the workplace, issues with our children, issues with employees, issues with people in the church, whatever the case may be. Your ability to have influence is going to be tested, and we have to expect that. Okay. Now, Rehoboam is facing a test. Now, there's an individual. Now, I'm going to make sure that you get the names straight here. Rehoboam is the king. He's Solomon's son. There's another individual by the name of Jeroboam. So you have Rehoboam and Jeroboam. Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, had fled with a group of with many, and he left Israel and went to Egypt. So Jeroboam left for Egypt, and the reason for his leaving had to do with his disagreement with Solomon's politics, if I can use our modern vernacular. He disagreed with Solomon's politics. He disagreed with the taxes. He disagreed with the military conscriptions. And so they left. We're done. Well, then word reaches Jeroboam in Egypt that Solomon had passed away. And so Jeroboam and the people of Israel, the people that he left with, they return. And so they come back with a request to Rehoboam. And I'm going to read that request so you can kind of see it here. It's found along with Rehoboam's reply. So I want you to see the wisdom here and what's gone on. But in chapter 12, verse 4, here is the request that Jeroboam brings. He says, "Your father put a heavy yoke on us, but now lighten the harsh labor and the heavy yoke he put on us, and we will serve you." So Jeroboam comes to this new king, and he says, I will come beside you. Look, if you will lighten the load that we're under, we will serve you well. I'm adding the well in there. It could be any which way, but he says, if you lighten our load, lighten our yoke, we'll serve you. It'll be good between us. Now Rehoboam initially makes a very wise decision. What does he do? He tells him, he answers, go away for 3 days and then come back to me. Now this is a very wise thing. Okay, he doesn't want to act rashly. He wants to make sure that he acts with good counsel, right? So he says, give me time. Give me ample opportunity to get the wisdom in the midst of this. And that's a good thing. It's okay to take time. Some things require us to act with expediency. And then there are other times where we have to act, we need to take our time and measure our response. And both are valid. Pardon me. Pardon the yawn. This is what happens in the evenings. And so anyways, this is a good part on his. And so he starts out initially making a wise choice. But then he starts playing to his vanity as opposed to meeting the needs of the people. Okay? See, initially what he does is he requests the time, and then he goes to his father's armor bearers. Okay, so remember how I spoke earlier about how Solomon surrounded himself with a godly council? Those are his armor bearers. And so Rehoboam rightfully goes to his father's armor bearers, his father's councilmen, and gets their response and what they say. And to paraphrase their response, they basically say, yeah, they've learned their lesson. Let's give them a favorable answer, and it will go well for us. And so it's okay. That's wonderful, and this makes sense because these councilmen who are speaking to Rehoboam, they know of what Jeroboam has done. They're familiar with the people who've left, and there's familiarity with the situation surrounding this and why they left in the first place. And but see, it doesn't just end there, though. Okay? See, what happens next is really where the failure on the leadership occurs. It says in verse 8, Rehoboam rejected their counsel. Okay? He basically what happened is Rehoboam decides not to listen, not to take the advice from proven godly armor. I don't doesn't say if they're godly or not, but proven armor bearers. Okay, proven good servants, proven elders who are knowledgeable of what's going on, and he has the opportunity to heed them and to listen to their advice. But instead, he rejects this. He rejects their advice. And instead, he decides to go and listen to his peers, to the young men that he grew up with, those who have never held the position of armor bearer. He has an opportunity to listen to good armor bearers and to respond, but instead he rejects it and listens to the advice of his peers who have not been proven, who have we don't know what level of understanding they have with their politics, but they reject it. And so that's the failure. This is what happens in the armor bearer relationship when the failure occurs on the part of the leader. Okay? This fail in Rehoboam's part is going disastrously bring a disastrous result on the kingdom, and it gets nasty. What happens is the kingdom splits. Judah and Israel decide to become, because of the animosity between the two, because of Rehoboam's response, they split, and basically they turn into basically two nation states. They turn into two states as opposed to one nation. And there's a whole lot more to that, the fallout from this. Remember in the previous episode, talking about Gehazi and he dealing with the fallout of his choices. Okay, the armor bearer's fallout, when it's on the armor bearer, on the servant, the armor bearer, that fallout is really going to disastrously impact them. But when the leader fails, the fallout is even greater. And that's where it calls for wisdom in how all of this plays out. And so, but more on this in here a little bit. As people with influence, whether you have influence in the home, influence in over children, influence in the church, influence in the workplace, whatever your sphere of influence, who we listen to matters. And this is huge. There's a scripture in Proverbs, I believe, it says, bad company corrupts good character. And that is so true. Who we decide to associate with, who we decide to listen to, it really does matter in what we're allowing these outside things to counsel us and to influence us. It is such a vital thing, and in all of us, whether we're influenced or what, but no matter who we are, when we allow other people to speak into our lives, to speak counsel into our lives, it matters what goes on. Just because what we might hear, what might come down the pipeline to us, just because it might be something we do not want to hear, does not mean that individual who spoke it is wrong. Maybe I can clarify that up just a little bit, because as I listen to that, it can be a little confusing. Just because we don't want to hear it doesn't mean it's wrong. It could simply mean that we have our vanity built up. It could mean that we have just a lot of other stuff happening and we're just being silly about it. But people who need to say the right things need to speak it, and we need to heed those voices, even if we don't want to hear it or not. Just because it's something we don't want to hear does not mean that the person who spoke it is in error. And so that is an important thing right there. Okay. For Christians, this can be twice as harming. This can be really hard for believers in the church. Because on the one hand, we may need to hear biblical advice. What does the Bible say about certain things? What does the Bible say when certain things have to be dealt with? And so we can, that's a major thing there. Is, as believers, Christians, there's going to be moments where the Bible has to give us accountability, where we need to be corrected, we need to be rebuked, or we're going into error or something. And so somebody's going to give that word to us. And, that's one of those things where we're going to need to pay attention to those moments, because we may not want to hear it, but it's something we do have to hear. It's something like this. We need to be careful not to run the risk of disagreeing with the Spirit of God. I think that's a big thing. That's why it's a dangerous thing when it comes to heeding counsel. We want to make sure we do not run the risk of disagreeing and rejecting what the Spirit of the living God has to say. But even then, on the other hand, and we like to listen to advice outside of the eldership, to use Solomon's councilmen and Rehoboam and the elders of Israel. There's the word of God, the harsh thing we don't want to hear. But then the other time is we go to hear people who are outside of that eldership. And I want to be really careful how I say that, because I'm not talking church elders. I'm talking church in general. We want to go and listen to advice that is outside of the Word of God. listening to advice and counsel from worldly sources. That's one of the big things that we need to be mindful of. And so uh, those are the two risks that we can run to if, as a believer, being in Rehoboam's position. We can have the godly counsel, the word of God that says, here, this is what you need to hear. This is what wise counsel says. But then we could also turn around and go to the advice that we want to hear, to that source of the flesh and the stuff that appeals to our vanity, and build upon that. And we need to be very, very careful. We need to be alert about that. Again, not making sure that we avoid counsel that speaks to our vanity. That's a very easy thing, I think, too, when we're in, like, especially if you're a leader, whether you're a pastor who's stumbled upon this, or other ministry leaders. Our vanity can get so big where we want to have the biggest, we want to have the best, we want to have the most influential, we want to have the most profitable. And those things can really speak to our vanity. I want to be that person of influence. I want to be that one that has got billions of followers, or our church attendance is going through the roof, or the list just grows with excuses to our vanity. And so we've got to make sure that we don't heed those voices, because those are the voices that bring us to ruin. And we need to make sure that we go to the place that is proven. We go to the place that is foundational. We go to the elders. We go to the scriptures to get our wisdom and our counsel as we need it. And so it's an important thing here. The Bible says in 1 Timothy chapter 3, verse 6, and I'm paraphrasing here, 1 Timothy 3:6 says, young men should not aspire to be in positions of authority. They should not be in leadership positions, lest they become conceited and fall into the trap of the enemy. So we see that right there, there's a maturity quotient, that we don't just go into that vanity or self-focused, or lest we become conceited. We need to have experience. And so that's where 1 Timothy is really good with that. And then Paul mentions it again in 1 Corinthians 2, verse 14. To paraphrase 1 Corinthians 2:14, he says that the world does not understand the things of the Spirit, for the Spirit needs to reveal those things to the world. And as leaders and armor bearers, it is really important for us to recognize what we are a part of. If we're a part of a church, part of a family, part of a workplace, those take levels of commitment. Those are places of armor-bearing relationships. And we need to make sure that we surround ourselves with voices that are going to affirm those commitments. Now, I want to be really careful with that. We live in a time when selfishness, my needs, my wants, my desires, my life is the name of the game. But if you're a person of influence, that means it's not just your life. You have people who are following you. And if you're an influence in family, if you have children, if you have a spouse, if you have, you're a teacher and you have a class, you're a manager, a supervisor in the workplace, you're a person that carries influence in the church. These are things that when we surround ourselves with counsel, when we surround ourselves with advice and voices, that we make sure that we are filling ourselves up with people who are going to affirm those things. And so when it comes to seeking advice, if you're a believer, especially if you're a believer, and you need advice for marriage, whatever the circumstances might be, then you need to surround yourself with godly advice, godly counsel on how to proceed through things that affirms restoration, that affirms a healthy marriage. If it's parenting, we need to make sure that we are surrounding ourselves with godly wisdom that affirms raising godly kids. In the workplace, surrounding people who are going to help, surrounding counsel to have a strong workplace. Don't go and surround yourself with voices who are going to negate these things. If you're having difficulties with a spouse, don't listen to people who are going to say, yes, you must be divorced. You must break this up. You must, as much as possible, legally, morally, work for restoration, work for health and strength, but in a way that affirms that commitment. And that can be hard. That can be really difficult to hear and to take sometimes, but I'm not just giving pat answers here. I'm explaining to us that we are surrounding ourselves with people who are going to see our situations. They're going to hear our situations. They're going to hear what is going on, and they're going to ask for advice. They're going to ask for counsel. And we have to do it from a biblically sound position. And so that's why if you're having a leadership, you surround yourselves with people who are going to affirm those things. A great example would probably be like with church boards. We don't just put anybody in a board position or a board leadership position, because those, at least with our church, our structure here at Albert Lee Assembly is that it is one that our structure, I can get it out here, our board serves as an advisory capacity to the lead pastor in matters of business and ministry. They are my advisory council. They are my team. They also serve as the trustees and the deacons, the board, but they serve at my behest. They're my advisory council. They help me make the decisions, and there are times when I yield to them. There are times when they have to assert some stuff, and I will go with it, and it is wonderful. But that's those things where we have that godly counsel in that role, because it's guiding the whole church. And they're my armor bearers. And again, making sure that they have that echo of the leadership heart, going back to the heart echo, where we talked about Jonathan and his armor bearer, and his armor bearer said to Jonathan, he said, do whatever you have in your heart. I will be with you heart and soul, because that's that heart echo. They've got my vision, and they're excited about it. And so surrounding yourselves with that kind of leadership is really good. The other thing too is when we choose to listen to advice that appeals to our flesh. So I had godly counsel, but now when we listen to advice that appeals to our flesh, disaster will always occur. Families suffer, workplaces break down, production slows down, relationships are broken, relationships with God are affected. And all these ideas and these breakdowns all occur because of these scenarios, just by listening to wrong counsel. Okay. Now, because of the conflict that resulted with Rehoboam listening to his friends, listening to those individuals, he listened and listened to his vanity. The nations experienced a very grievous thing. I want to show you the big grievous thing that occurred here. And we're going to look again, 1 Kings 12. I'm going to jump to verse 26. In verse 26, Jeroboam thought to himself, the kingdom will now likely revert to the house of David. If these people go up to offer sacrifices at the temple of the Lord in Jerusalem, they will again give allegiance to their Lord, Rehoboam, king of Judah. They will kill me and return to King Rehoboam. After seeking advice, the king made 2 golden calves. He said to the people, it is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Here are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt. One is set up in Bethel, and the other in Dan. And this thing became a sin, and the people came to worship the one at Bethel, and went as far as Dan to worship the other. Spiritual idolatry is what occurred here. It was extensive, and it brought disaster. Bethel was in the land of Ephraim, so Ephraim and Dan brought idolatry at a national level to the people of Israel, and it came about because all the way back to a leader who did not listen to godly counsel. Instead, he listened to his friends. He gave a harsh response. People were disgruntled. They were maddened by it, and they fractured. And as they fractured, they said, we don't have any loyalty to the people of Judah, so we will do this instead. Here is your false gods. And so that is the largest takeaway right there, is that when the leadership fails and listens to wrong counsel, the people suffer. When it comes to church, and when church leaders listen to the wrong counsel, when they listen to worldly counsel, sooner or later, the suffering is going to be revealed. The mistakes are going to be revealed. And so surrounding ourselves with godly counsel is vital. Listening, as leaders, listening to godly armor bearers is vital, because if we fail and we decide to listen to unproven sources, we try to listen and heed the advice of those who do not have our heart, who do not have the heart of God, then we can run a very big mistake. And that's the failure. The fallout on a leader is going to be a whole lot more impactful than the fallout on the servant, on the armor bearer. And but they're both key moments where we see that failure occur. I hope that you got a lot out of this study as we looked at just the failures. We'll come back next week and we'll have more, and I hope that you're excited about that as we go through this buddy battle series and really breaking down this component of leadership and armor bearers and come alongside one another and serving well. I hope that you've got a lot out of that. Like I say every time, if you are in the area and you want to join us, we would love to have you here. We meet at Sunday mornings and Wednesdays. Sunday mornings are in-person. Sunday school is at 9, worship's at 10, and we have prayer at 6 p.m. And we'd love to have you here at the church on Sundays. On Wednesday nights, we have a fundraiser meal at 5:30, and our classes begin at 6:30. We have a youth group, kids church, women's Bible study, and adult Bible study, and just a lot of great activity, and just really great programs for all ages. And we appreciate that. If you would like to give, there's a giving in the link below, and we would love to have you contribute if you feel so led to help the needs of the church and help us to excel in all things, and that would be wonderful. And if you're not able to be with us in person, we do have our app, our Albert Lee Assembly of God app is free in the app stores, and then also we meet online on YouTube. We live stream our Sunday morning worship at 10, and that's a wonderful experience. And then our midweek study is released every Thursday morning. So thank you so much for being a part of this and for spending your time with us. We hope that you have a wonderful time. And once again, thank you so much for this time together. God bless you, and you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.